After being fined $15,000 for refusing to attend a press conference, the world's number 2 female tennis star Naomi Osaka has pulled out of the French Open, citing mental health reasons.
I think now the best thing for the tournament, the other players, and my well-being is that I withdraw so that everyone can get back to focusing on the tennis going on in Paris. The truth is that I have suffered long bouts of depression since the US Open in 2018, and I've had a really hard time coping with that.
In an emotional post, the 23-year-old describes herself as an introvert and details her anxiety at public speaking. France's tennis body expressed their regret at Osaka's withdrawal.
We are sorry and sad for Naomi Osaka. We remain very committed to all athletes' well-being and to continually improving every aspect of players' experience in our tournament.
American tennis icon Serena Williams also expressed her support for Osaka.
I feel for Naomi. I feel like I wish I could give her a hug. Everyone is different and everyone handles things differently. So, you just have to let her handle it the way she wants to.
Last Wednesday, Naomi Osaka pronounced she wouldn't be doing press interviews to preserve her mental sanity. The 4 Grand Slam events, Wimbledon, the French, Australian and US Open, said Sunday they had written to Osaka to check on her well-being and offer support.
Well, before we go to our panel, let's cross to tennis journalist Chris Bowers, who's covering the matches still going on live at Roland Garros. Your latest book, a biography of world number 1 Novak Djokovic, who's on court later in the night session. Thank you for speaking with us here. What do you make of Naomi Osaka's decision to withdraw?
It sort of made sense of the whole thing, which didn't make sense until last night. If that sounds a bit odd, what I mean by that is that although she had some reasonable points about how press conferences are conducted, it didn't seem to make sense that the press conferences would be at the center of all this. And we felt in the media that there was either something serious going on in her life or she was being very, very badly advised. And in a way, I think last night she came clean by saying, look, I am struggling with something here, and therefore I need to take a step back. And as far as I can see, that is a fair assessment because, she benefits financially and in other ways from being number 2 in the world in a sport with a tremendous amount of exposure. I mean, there's nothing really to make the number 2 in the world or any number in the tennis rankings better as an athlete than the number 2 in badminton or squash or other sports. It's just that tennis is better marketed. Tennis has more exposure. And part of that exposure is that they attend press conferences. The players attend press conferences after every match if they're requested. And therefore, by saying she wouldn't be part of that, she was effectively saying, I am cherry-picking aspects of this exposure deal, which really isn't on. Now, if she's got problems, there's a lot of sympathy for her if she's had difficulties. And one of the things that the media has to recognize, and the International Tennis Writers Association made this clear in a letter to her agent, that actually, just because you're good at hitting a tennis ball backwards and forwards across the net and have good fitness and good match technique, doesn't mean that you are necessarily cut out to be a person on whose every word the world will hang. And therefore, it is a side effect for being a top-level athlete that they never chose. On the other hand, it is part of the deal which gives them a good living, and therefore, if she's struggling, she needs to take a step back and sort her problems out, which is what she did last night. So in many ways, it made sense of the decision that she announced last week, which always seemed to be a little bit of a smokescreen for something.
Just very briefly before we let you get back to your coverage, Chris, in the past, what's Naomi Osaka been like at press conferences?
Oh, she's been terrific. I mean, she's actually one of the most popular for press conferences, partly because, she said she's introverted, but I think she's also somebody who speaks very openly, not averse to having that bit of fun, and in a way, I'd rather assume that she'd found a way of dealing with it. I don't think any of the players would choose to do a press conference if they didn't have to, but plenty of players say, okay, it's an obligation, therefore we have to do this, therefore let's build it into our post-match routine. And for some of them, especially when they've been defeated, it can be quite cathartic. But Naomi's certainly gone down very well, has been popular, and I don't think she's been badly treated. She remains one of the most popular players in press conferences. She remains one of the most popular among the press and among other players.
Right. Many thanks, Chris Bowers, covering the French Open tennis tournament, for speaking with us from Roland Garros. Interesting, Michael Payne, picking up on that point about the difference between those who follow the sport all year round and those who are there because it's a big event. I know from covering the Olympics that you get that same mix for things like athletics and swimming when you're at the Olympics. There's of course that notorious incident back in 1981 when John McEnroe at a press conference at Wimbledon walks out when they ask him a question about his girlfriend, and the British and American journalists actually start a fist fight with each other. Michael Payne, your thoughts on what it means to have the post-match press conference?
I think Chris Bowers sort of underlines the key point. It's part of the deal between the athletes and the media. The athletes depend on the oxygen that the media give to give the profile for the sport. There is a post-event press conference, but I think we also have to recognize the intensity of the media coverage has just continued to grow and grow and grow. And social media has made it only more intense. And if you're living under the spotlight 24/7 and you're competing at the highest levels and the stress and strain that takes, and then you step off the sports field into what can often be a feeding frenzy of media chasing headlines, chasing the next deadline, something had to give. And I think this was just waiting to happen. And over the coming weeks and months, I think there will be a very intense debate about what should be the right balance. There's some moderation here. And I think, this evening's debate will begin that whole discussion as to where this is going to go.
Yeah, have times changed is a question we'll put. But Simon Harding, you and I have bemoaned enough times when there's been, not just tennis, an important football match where you see the athletes walk past the microphones and only give answers over their Instagram account or whatever, or to whatever tabloid is they have an exclusive contract with.
It's certainly a difficult situation because particularly with mental health, you need to be very careful about how you approach the topic. And first and foremost, I think it's sad really that it's come to this, that the number 2 player in the world has or feels that she has to step back from tennis in order to get a break. I think, and I agree with everything that's been said so far about this is part of the job. Naomi Osaka is the highest earning female athlete in the world.